If you've been anywhere near the internet in the past couple of days, you probably know a bit about India, Pakistan. Nothing better to get that algorithm going than knowing that two nuclear superpowers could potentially blow your entire world up, no big deal. Conflict is a complex thing. At any given point in a war, there's more than one war going on. It's not just the land, sea, and air war that's going on, but instead there's a battle for the hearts and the minds of people. Story after story, outlet after outlet, channel after channel, trying to share this idea of who's winning, what happened, who said what, and who's on the right side of history. So, you know, I go out, I check the news like any other normal person, and every single time, a big question just comes up on my mind. Why does the Malaysian media hate India so much? News is how we learn about the world, or at least that's how it's supposed to work. If the news media is working, then that means that it provides accurate, timely, relevant information about events, issues, and developments nationally, locally, and globally. Now, I have a very huge problem with the Malaysian media at the moment because somehow or another, it doesn't matter what media platform you go on at the moment, right? Like, almost every single one of them is going to have a Pakistan bias. Just in the past 1 week alone, like the stories that I get are things like Belajar bertahan seperti Pakistan from Sinar Harian, and then Mungkin India lupa Pakistan adalah bangsa berani. And oh, possibly the most wild one of all is this one right here from Sinar Harian. Beranikah kita ubah kiblat dari barat? Wow. Incredible. And of course, we can't forget the simple fact that at the end of the day, it is the Pahalgam attack that started all of this, right? Like, it's a fight between India and terrorists. Not necessarily a fight between India and Pakistan, but like, the media has basically like framed it in that way. Now, I'm not saying that Pakistan is on the right side of history, or it's not for that matter. Fundamentally, India-Pakistan is not in our hands, it is a family dispute.
So I have to ask, right?
When I read Malaysian news, I can't help but wonder, why do they want Pakistan to be on the right side of history? Now, of course, there are some people out there who are biased, sibuk, and cannot mind their own business, like Dr. Mazat, about how, oh, Malaysia and Muslims have to support Pakistan without even realizing that they are not the foreign minister, they don't have a role in deciding how Malaysia engages with the foreign world, and they should stick to the mediocre job that they are doing instead of trying to comment on foreign policy, especially when they don't even know that India has over 200 million Muslims, which it seems they don't even care about. But when I look at the Malaysian news, I just can't help but wonder, bros, why do you hate India so much? Like, there has been no article where I've actually seen what the Indian government actually says, what they think, and there's nothing that actually favors them in any way out there. See, for those jokers that know nothing about geopolitics and want to so-called appeal to the Ummah, it kind of makes sense. But if you are the media, you have a responsibility to the people of Malaysia to convey a full picture, something that actually makes it so that people can make good decisions. In what way are you helping people to make good decisions by going out there and then just presenting statement after statement from Pakistan while you just completely ignore the Indian narrative? If I were a Malaysian child just living in this day and age, the only thing I would see is that Pakistan is the good guy and then India is the bad guy. There is no deviating from that. This is not how it should be. I'm not here to hear a fairy tale. I'm here to get informed about the world. And if you are not doing that, I think it's quite fair to say that you are not actually fulfilling your role. Now, of course, someone could say that I didn't look at every single article. How could I possibly say that the media of Malaysia is biased towards Pakistan? Well, I did a full-scale analysis of like different news agencies like Astro, Awani, Berita Harian, Utusan Online, The Star, the New Straits Times, Malay Mail, even The Edge and Bernama, right? And in this case, what I did was I copied all the headlines that appear basically in like the different social media platforms right here, did a sentiment analysis with ChatGPT. So it was actually quite a lot of headline scraping, and here's the table that I ended up creating right here. Not a single one of these outlets has an India bias. Every single one of them either has no bias with Bernama, The Itch, and otherwise, but everything else is pro-Pakistan and anti-India. At some point, you just have to wonder, right? Like, is this Sinar Harian or Sinar Pakistan? Is it Astro Awani or Astro Rawalpindi? Looking at all this right now, I actually have no idea. See, I find this really disturbing because like, the more and more I look at all of these stories, I can see the way that they're shaping people's perception of India. And on the comment sections, you can actually see all these people going out and then trying to mock our local Indian community. And so, what's the result? People start insulting India, talking about how, oh, like, you know, they're not loyal to Malaysia. Oh, they're not going to support Malaysia or something. And before you know it, then people are talking about Kuil Haram, balik ke India, durian, and any sort of nonsense that they want to use in order to justify their hatred. Now, before anyone starts accusing me of being anti-Pakistan, I'm not saying that you need to celebrate India as the hero. I'm literally just saying, like, put in some Indian voices along the way. That's not very difficult, right? To just go right there and show this distorted picture of the facts and of the statements that have been made is really a showcase of the failure of Malaysian media to actually accomplish anything that is remotely similar to informing people, which if you think about it is really very sad and very unfortunate, because the news media, whether we like it or not, shapes the way that our policies go, the way that our government actually interacts with other parties out there. And as a country that trades with both India and Pakistan, you'd expect that at the very least we would have some neutrality when it comes to actually dealing with them. And in fact, our relationship with India is more important because we trade much more with them. They're our largest buyer of palm oil, and we trade with them also rice, sugar, and onions and garlic. Like, they're far more important, way more important compared to what we get from Pakistan, which is basically just halal meat. But still, somehow or another, this type of bias is out there. Malaysia is supposed to be a neutral country, and the very fact that we are neutral, it suggests that maybe we shouldn't be looking at things from just one side, either the India side or the Pakistan side. But at the same time though, I think it's not a secret to a lot of people out there that the media depends on what people want. It shapes what people demand, and in turn what people ask of the media. Like, Malaysians have this pattern, right, of actually like trying to silence or to fight against the stories that they don't actually like. And I think the clearest example was actually when there were Hamas protests in Gaza. Yes, that's right, there were actually Hamas protests in Gaza. And probably the reason that you didn't hear about this if you were reading Astro, Awani or Sinar, Harian is that those articles were actually taken down. So you literally cannot find those articles at all. The reason for that is that the moment the articles were posted, right, then immediately people started saying,
"Don't be a traitor, propaganda, not sure if sahih, jangan rosakkan fikiran orang, pro-Israel."
To the point that the moderators probably realized we can't have this on our platform. And before you know it, poof, the articles were gone, both on Facebook as well as on the actual website. Literally, just try and search for these articles, you cannot actually find them because people were pissed off, they were angry because like their story, that world, that idea actually that they had of like Hamas being freedom fighters was just completely broken apart. And like, you can just imagine that if they were to actually publish a pro-India article, then what would happen is that there would just be people who would just comment over and over again and tell the world that the article needs to be taken down for the sake of agama dan bangsa, even though these people actually have nothing to do with Malaysia at all. Now, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, whether the media is biased because they have their own ideology or agenda, or because they are cowering to the people, right? But like, if you think about it, like, neither of these scenarios is good. Like, if we have an independent media, one that can actually inform people, then you'd have a much more educated, well-read society that would actually be able to discuss and debate things rather than get into echo chambers all the time, fight about stupid things, and then at the end of the day, just come to the conclusion that they had at the very start, which, in my mind, is a very bad recipe for a civil society. If you don't actually have a good media ecosystem, right, then how can people ever become smart? Every single thing that they get is going to be filtered through a set of like rose-tinted lenses or some sort of agama dan bangsa narrative before it reaches their brains, and by the time it does reach, then it's going to end up polluting everything that they are saying until eventually the whole country becomes stupid because everybody's just parroting the same narrative. At the end of the day, I think the Malaysian news media world treats news more like propaganda than actual news. See, right, like, if it were actual news, then like they would inform you about the world, they would tell you in no uncertain terms, right, what the facts are. Not the alternative facts, not the story that's basically meant to paint your Pakistan army in the beautiful colors of green, even as you scream Pakistan Zindabad or anything else out there. At the end of the day, this is a conflict, we don't know exactly what has happened. Like, maybe Pakistan is at fault, maybe India is at fault, maybe both of them are at fault all at the same time. But like, if you're going out there and then you're just sharing this narrative where one side is clearly the enemy and one side is the victim, while not telling us everything that we need to hear, then what you have there is not somebody fighting for justice. Like, what you have there is an unreliable and biased narrator that is basically lying to its audience. At no point of my life did I lose as much faith in Malaysia's news media as when it came to the India-Pakistan conflict. Because like, it's like they're not even trying to show you reality anymore. It's like they're literally trying to manufacture a type of reality for you and then just hoping that you will accept it after they shove it down your throat. And I think that that's very, very unhealthy for our society. Of course, it's not that like we should rely only on the Malaysian news media. Like, I think to become an informed citizen in this day and age, right? Like, nobody can just afford to read things from one type of news source at all. But I think that it really does say something when your entire country's news media is like that, right? And that's where other news sources around the world, right, they become more and more valuable to you, and your local news media ends up dying. I can only hope that if you think that this isn't something that should continue out there, at the very least, the next time you read an article, just be aware, right? Like, how is this outlet trying to shape the way that I see things? How am I being influenced by what they have chosen to write? And what agenda do they maybe have along the way? I don't think that that's a controversial question to ask, and I think that it's something that we as Malaysian citizens, or citizens of any country in fact, should be asking, right, of the media that's supposed to tell us the truth about the world. Alright, and that's all to say about that, and bye.